15 degrees, you can see your breath. Out here in the lake of fact, breaking tables like it's poetry. Where else would you rather be? Pinto, Ron, Elvis, and the lay poncho. The members that you need to know. 'Cause once you out here, now your family. Where else would you rather be? Where else would you rather be?
Welcome into the Nickel City Crew. I am your host, Rob Crippen. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Nickel City Crew. This episode, along with all of our episodes, are presented by Crippen Legacy Entertainment here on Spreaker and StreamYard. We're so glad that you're joining us for some of your Buffalo Bills and NFL content again today. And as always, these are my Bills thoughts said out loud.
It's a vibe so ridiculous. Since 12 plus 83 was 6. The shout rocking like a symphony. Where else would you rather be?
All right, let's get straight to it. Really excited for tonight's episode. It was funny because I was listening back when I reached out to our guest tonight that you see on the live. And it was funny because last week, Justice General, creative director over at Buffalo Fanbase, where we simulcast on, challenged me, DT. And you heard him last week. It was like, well, what was the vibe last year? How did you feel last year? And I was just offended. I was like, well, I'm always in. And I had Super Bowl aspirations. And it was funny because I was listening back to last year's episode when we had our guest on, and boy, has the tenor changed for me, at least. And I know a lot of the members of the Mafia, it's changed as well. But we're going to chop it up tonight, our AFC breakdown for the 2024 season tonight. Joining me, as always, riding shotgun, my co-host, Adam Dump Truck Rupsick. Holla at the crew, DT. Check him out on Instagram and Twitter at Adam Rupsick, RUPCZYK. What's good, DT? Holla at the crew.
What's up, Rob? What's up, Nickel City? We're back. Another week, the last summer week, really.
Mm-hmm.
I consider next week game week, right? Next week game week.
That's right.
So this is the last week of the summer, the real kickoff of college football tonight. We're talking a nice slate of games to kind of get your football fix and you know, get ready for the big leagues next week. So I'm jacked up, man. This time of year, I just start to get, googly-eyed and ready to go. It's ball season, baby. It's ball season. I'm having a barbecue for my employees tomorrow to kind of get that tailgate vibe in, to go into the Labor Day weekend with some juice. So I'm ready to go, baby. One more week till game week, and I'm ready. Let's go.
I love it. He stuttered over his words. He's so damn excited. Click, clack, we back. We are so excited, and we're glad to be joined tonight by our special guest. And, this is a guy I've been admiring for a while. We hooked up a couple of years ago, and we just – hey, man, that's what Buffalo Fanbase is all about. Build the base. You see the hashtag that I came up with, build the base. It's about spreading the love and really just, elbow rubbing with all of these great content creators. He really is one. Ryan Thomas of Thomas Take Sports. Check him out. Instagram, Twitter, anywhere. Thomas Take Sports. Holla at the crew. RT, you looking crispy tonight. Holla at the crew. Holla at the crew, man. What's good?
It's great to be back with you, Rob. It's good to hear the soothing sounds of Rob Crippen. DT joining us, of course, as always. You guys are doing your thing. I really appreciate, the fact that you guys are authentic to your opinions, but your opinions are based in fact. I think from what I've gathered, all my conversations with you, Rob, we've had some really good conversations over the years. So I'm really excited to get to it tonight on this show, and let's give the Nickel City a great one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's break it down because it's funny. I talked about, I listened to that episode that we had last year for the 23 AFC breakdown. And, things are a little bit different now, DT, as we break down the conference. But one of the things is that, when things were going bad at 6-6, up until that point, I was all in. And I thought that we had a Super Bowl team. I don't think that we have one this year in respects to a true contender, but Bills Mafia would love to tell you that all you need is 17 and all you need is a ticket. And to a certain extent, that's true. It's sports. So anytime with professional sports or any type of competition, all you need is an opportunity. I think that Josh Allen gives us that opportunity to get into the playoffs this year, DT, even with, obviously the myriad of changes on the roster. So I was wondering what you thought about it, because I know you didn't listen to last year's episode, but I did, and I was amped before, and I was talking shit, and I was like, man, these people keep talking about, we're not the top dogs anymore, and we're underdogs, and I kept rebuking all that. This year, DT, I'm a little quieter. Besides my Twitter battles, I'm just taking low, and I'm just observing this year, man. I'm gonna enjoy the ride. I promise that.
Well, my tone, Rob, the last 2 weeks has been, we just got to let the pads talk now. This summer, it happens every year. And this year, I think we feel it a little more because I've had to defend the team a little more than we have in the previous seasons, right? The vibe is low. The overall outlook, I think, is low. But once we start getting closer, I admit I was a little on that vibe, but now I'm getting more pumped up. I'm getting more confident.
Okay.
I'm getting more, we got 1-7, that's what matters type of vibe. So I think, I need the pads to start talking for themselves, because, it's been such an up and down emotional offseason of, are we good? Yes, we're good. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. And then we didn't really see anything in the preseason to tell us either way, right? So it's all going to come down to, next Sunday the 8th when we're out there screaming and letting the pads talk, letting them clap, and then we just got to get to that point. I'm sick of these preseason rankings and this week about people voting
Josh Allen most overrated. Yeah,
we gotta get over till the pads start talking. And so I agree. I'm not as pumped up as I had been in previous years, but I will say I'm starting to get a little more aggressive, a little more confident going into this year, knowing we do have 1-7, and kind of talking myself into some other places where I thought we were really bare, and then really looking at it and saying, like, you know what, I think we'll be okay. So I'm the glass half full guy. Nickel City knows that. Rob, you know that. And I'll continue to be that. You keep giving me your money, sit down in the chair, and I'm going to make you walk out of here feeling good about this team, because we got a damn good team still, and we got a generational quarterback in 1-7. So I'm getting on the pump-up game. We're going to be just fine with the boy.
Oh, I love it. Listen, Ryan, it's funny because I've been listening to some of your work throughout the offseason, and you've done a great job of breaking everything down. I'm almost, like DT had said, I'm actually at offseason fatigue. Like the season could not be coming a day, later. I am really ready for September 8th. What are you looking for in respects to your expectations for this team before we get into the AFC and the nitty gritty? Because I mean, it's a different year. I will say that there's a lot of roster turnover, and the Bills had to go younger. And I understood that a lot of the stuff we've talked about in the past had to happen. Some of the stuff was necessary for us to take some medicine, and then some stuff wasn't. So because of that, a lot has changed. And I'm just watching everything closely. What's your expectations for the year?
Honestly, to kind of start off with just my excitement, I think my excitement is always going to be at an all-time high. When it comes to this team, just because Bills football has a special meaning to me. Growing up watching games with my grandfather and my dad, I was born into this. It's like a birthright for the majority of us, right? And that part of it is what makes it so special. So that part of it always has me excited. Finding out what I'm going to do week to week, my game day routine. Am I gonna watch the game at my dad's? Is my dad going to come to my place? Things like that. That's always what gets us, really excited. But just looking at the X's and O's, we'd be, feeling a little bit like we're lying to ourselves here if we told ourselves that this year wasn't a different year compared to other years. At least, on paper, the Bills are a very different team than what they are or what they were previously. A lot of leadership is lost off of this team, specifically defensively, that I've talked about, and Rob and I have talked about kind of off the air, that I think is really crucial to finding out who the leaders are going to be outside of Josh Allen. We know Josh Allen is going to take the largest leadership role that he possibly has ever had to take. But beyond that, who is going to step up? And there's a lot of guys on this team that are quote unquote ready, but we don't know who those will be until the games are played. And that's what makes football such a special sport. My expectations, despite their changes on the roster on paper, I still think that they're the beast of the AFC East. I don't think the teams have done enough to bridge the gap between them and Buffalo.
Okay.
At this point. I could be wrong on that. Maybe I'll eat my words on that, but there's reports of disarray with the Jets. I always call them the New York Jokes because they're just a constant running joke each and every year. They always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot. Mm-hmm. Miami is under a lot of changes defensively. Tua's one, slip away from always getting hurt, it seems. And New England is just overall, they're extremely young. They're starting back up. It's like a whole new program to take a college term. So I still think the Bills are the king of the AFC East, and that means playoffs. So from there, that's where we got to really get into the nitty gritty. Make some changes.
Make some changes. And see, it's interesting because, to properly do this exercise, DT, we've got to, just go by the divisions and like we did last year and just kind of hash it out, so to speak. And one of the things that Ryan just said that was interesting to me, because I have a different take, is that, when you look at the divisions and things like that, like there are just so many great quarterbacks in this conference now. And we've seen it, DT, with, some of the recent extensions and different things like that. And it just seems like the balance of power between AFC and NFC, back when I was a kid and the Bills were going to the Super Bowl, that it was a weaker conference. The AFC was weaker than the NFC, and that's, that helped the Bills and establish their dominance. Now, obviously, they had all those Hall of Famers, so they deserved credit for winning those 4 straight AFC titles, but their path was a lot clearer. You know what I mean? You had Elway, you had Marino, and then after that, there wasn't a lot of, resistance in respects to the AFC quarterbacks. Now everything has flipped 30 years later, DT. I just looked at the damn divisions again, man, and like this conference is stacked. Are the quarterbacks on our schedule are stacked. We talked about that before when we did our recap show for the schedule. DT, this shit is not it's not even slowing down, man. This is a real heavy quarterback conference, and they've got some young studs in there as well.
It keeps getting harder, Rob. But the thing is you kind of watch the transition of this conference in the transition of the Bills themselves. You look at, the teams that the young, hungry teams like the Houston Texans of the world, where they don't have to pay anybody. They're not paying anybody on that roster. So they can stack it up, as high as possible to get into this conversation of an elite team in the AFC. And then you look on the other end of it, a team like the Chiefs, who have had to go through a little bit of the salary cap rotation and cut some, cut a Tyreek Hill and cut guys like that, and still be successful, because they had the generational quarterback and so on and so forth. So the Bills are kind of right in the middle of that standard, right? They weren't so much just a young team that could stack up without paying anybody up until this year, but they were close to it. Josh's salary really wasn't hitting much. They didn't have really too many big-time guys. Wide receivers weren't making $40 million a year, things of that nature. Now they have to reset and kind of move into that, that Chiefs role of having to not rebuild, but reset the salary cap and win from within and win off the culture. And then you've got these younger teams coming up where the Bengals are starting to kind of creep into that category of, can we pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? No, we can't. Now Jamar Chase isn't showing up to practice. And T. Higgins doesn't want to be on the franchise tag. But then they got to pay Joe Burrow, and they had to get rid of Joe Mixon. And, so you're seeing the transition of young up-and-coming teams where they don't have to pay anybody, killing it, as sneaking into this loaded conference. And the conference is already loaded on the top with these teams that have kind of got through that rebuild. So we got to cross our fingers and hope the Bills are one of those teams that can get it through that rebuild, reset of the salary cap to kind of move forward and continue being a dominant team in this conference. But yeah, it doesn't get easier because these younger teams are coming in and being able to stack up. And so it's every week is a tough matchup in the AFC.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, this conference. And, Ryan, it's like when I think about it, like just all the different matchups and different things like that and all the different possibilities, it's just like, I'm impressed with the quarterbacks, and that's what kind of, that's again something that tempers my expectations in respects to the fact that I know the defense has got a heavy load to lift this year to kind of pick up for some of the stuff on the offense that has definitely changed. And we've already gone through, and you've gone through on your show as well, all the different changes. So we won't bore the audience with all of those tonight. But specifically something you just said, we'll stick with the AFC East first, and then we'll go around the conference. I have a different take on the Jets. Like the Jets kind of, I don't know, man, if this dude Aaron Rodgers can find a way to stay healthy, I just I don't know, man. They've got one of the top defenses, Ryan, in the in the league. It looks like they beat the already. Yeah, but they had no quarterback. I mean, they had no quarterback last year. They won 7 games with Zach Wilson. And he didn't even want to come into one of the games. Like, he's like, we're getting beat up so much, I don't even want to come into the fucking game. Like, that is wild to me. And I look at him a little bit side-eyed, Ryan. I got to be honest. I look at him a little bit side-eyed.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but there was a word that you used, and everything you said, I don't disagree with you. But if was the word you used. If Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. Now, I tend to think that as an athlete, the older you get, the more prone you are to injury.
Sure.
The older Aaron Rodgers, right? The older Aaron Rodgers has gotten, he's faced injuries, and he's coming off of a very, very tough one. Now, I know that the Jets have done a lot to add to their offensive line. I think they have 3 new offensive linemen that were, guys that they spent money on, that they used cap space to get. So they wanted to right a wrong there. But interestingly enough, I just recently watched the sequence of events that led to Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. Okay. And every single play that Aaron Rodgers dropped back with the football, he got either touched or hit. So that just goes to show you that I think the injury that he suffered, as horrible as it was almost like it was bound to happen. It was bound to, So I definitely am a little bit, with new,
you could see him in that situation again, basically.
I could see him in that situation again. Yeah, with new pieces. Sometimes a lot of new pieces is not good. There's a little bit of a, you want a little bit of continuity. And to be honest with you, it seems like Aaron Rodgers to me has never struck me as the type of leader that Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or some of these other guys were. And to me, I think that locker room outside of Rodgers, he's got to be having conversations with the coaching staff about what TV shows he grew up watching. I can't find a way that Aaron Rodgers can relate to these guys that he plays with because they're 20 years younger than him. Breece Hall was not even probably born yet by the time Aaron Rodgers was playing at Cal. So it's really hard for me to say, is that the guy that's going to topple Josh Allen, who is in his prime, that, he's going to be without some weapons that he was accustomed to having, obviously. But I'd take my chances with that guy in uncharted territory at 27 than Aaron Rodgers at 40, 41. And that's just the offense. The Jets defense is very, very good, but eventually that celery stick can break, and if the fact that their defense is as good as it is, they have to over-rely on it, though.
They've got studs at every level. Every level. Got the Williams brothers and the line and linebacker. Then they got Sauce in the secondary. They've got studs, like real all pros.
Yeah. But if here's another if they have to over rely on that defense to make plays for them, if the offense is, not as good as they think, which is possible, then that could be more of the same. And I don't trust the Jets to get it right. I've never seen it in my lifetime. I've never seen the Jets get it right. The team that would honestly be the team that would scare me more out of the two is Miami, because Miami has pure firepower, the likes of which I don't think any other team has. So that's just kind of how I look at if you were to take Miami's offense and the Jets defense against the Bills, then we got some problems. We got some problems. But other than that, I think we're all right.
Dump truck. What Ryan just poured water all over my Jets take, because I don't know. They make me a little bit nervous, and I'm just being honest, because like I looked at the injury, and I love how you broke that down, Ryan, because the injury, I looked at it as a freak injury, but then the way you broke it down, it was like, yes, he was touched on those previous plays. He only lasted 4 plays, as everybody knows, and I could see him in that situation again, realistically. So to me, if he's healthy, I don't know how you could be worse than last year with Zach Wilson, DT. I don't even know how. And they won 7 games. It's weird.
That's a good point. But off of what Ryan was saying, Aaron Rodgers hasn't been an elite quarterback in the league and going on 3 years now. It's not like he was throwing dimes up, in February 6 months ago. This guy and we have not seen him perform at an elite level in almost 3 years. So,
Sure.
and the best point I think Ryan brought is they haven't figured it out our whole lives. I mean, they went to that one AFC title game, and that was and that was kind of a fluke, with
Rex.
I like Chad Pennington though. I will say I had Chad Pennington in a couple fantasy teams. He had a couple.
He carved us up a little bit.
Wayne Corbett
and the Curtis Martins and those cats, but. They haven't figured it out. Yes, the roster's been good, but it just seems like they always implode. I mean, they trade for Hassan Reddick.
This motherfucker won't even come.
And then he won't even play. When they had a guy they didn't even have to pay, that's probably better in their room already. They just do stuff like that every year, and so it doesn't give me any confidence. I grew up really, the rivalry was, in the beginning was the Dolphins. Then I turned to the Patriots just because Tom Brady would torch us. Then I went to college with a bunch of downstate kids, and the Jets took the #1 hate for me. I mean, all these cocky Long Island kids, shout out all my squad down there. But, man, with their Jets jerseys on in the dining hall, it just wasn't.
They're insufferable.
So the Jets turned into #1 for me. And then since then, it's all talk. It's no bite. And I'm gonna ride that until I don't see it anymore, until we get punched in the mouth ourselves and be like, okay, maybe they're for real. But Aaron Rodgers is far removed. He's old. He doesn't have the leadership I think maybe a young team of talent needs, and they haven't shown me shit my whole life. So I'm not buying them until I have to.
What team of the division, as we move on to Miami, what team of the division gives us a harder time than the Jets? And now you guys can both say during Josh Allen's tenure that is true. So regardless, they give us tough games.
Yeah.
Their defense knows how to cover Allen for whatever reason, whether it's Salah or whether it's a different scheme. It doesn't really matter. They always give us a tough game. But okay, I can see that we need to see it, and I can give it to both of you on that we haven't seen it, so I can at least give you that. But as we transition to Miami, again, shout out to all of the listeners on all different platforms tonight. We've already got over 350. Really appreciate you guys joining us tonight.
That's great.
DT, Ryan, you talked about Miami a little bit. I think that they're explosive. I think that they're an offense that obviously I envy. I really do enjoy Mike McDaniel. I wish he was our coach. I just put up a poll on Twitter that you probably saw. I was like, if you know what I mean, what happens if McDermott he got fired or something like that? Would you want Mike McDaniel? And I definitely would want him. And I know that that's just a pipe dream, but I value what he does on the offensive side of the ball. I think he's a great offensive mind, and I think that they're always going to be in it until it gets cold, because it just seems like that seems to be their kryptonite, is when the weather changes, they're just not tough. What did Jordan Poyer say when he went down there to Miami to join them? He said that we knew we punch y'all in the mouth, y'all weren't going to hit back, like y'all going to fall over. And that has proven to be true. I haven't really ever seen McDermott coach a better game than he did. Like me and DT had talked about, that was his magnum opus at the Ralph last year. That was they playing that palm coverage. That was the best I've ever seen him coach a team after they scored 70 points the week before. So what do you think about Miami? Because I think that until the weather changes, they can rack up wins, put up points. I really do.
I agree with you. I made a joke to a few buddies of mine, longtime buddies of mine. We're talking football all the time and group texts and stuff. And I said, literally, if you had all the money in the world and you wanted to buy a sports car, you want to get a Ferrari. You'd get either a red one or an orange one. If you're down in Miami, riding down South Beach, riding down Ocean Avenue or whatever you want to call it, you'd want an orange or a white, Ferrari. And to me, Miami is literally, their football team is literally a orange Ferrari. It drives good in the summer, drives good in the weather. But if you try to drive that in Buffalo, you would be SOL. And that's how I look at the Dolphins, to be honest with you. I look at them like an actual Ferrari. They got the cheetah. Jalen Waddle is one of the most underrated receivers, I think, in the league. And then this kid A-Chain that came out of nowhere, for them, and Raheem Mostert, they're a really good 1-2 punch. Draft Jalen Wright. Seems like, he's really somebody that, the fantasy football people are freaking out over, that he could be a sleeper if somebody gets hurt. He's got talent. But it all just comes back to the quarterback. And I know that it's quarterback-driven league. Yes, football's more than just one position. But when it comes down to it, the division itself Allen, Rodgers, you could rank them quarterback-wise any which way. Allen's won. Allen has always won, no matter how anyone wants to say he's overrated. Great trash talker he might be. He's always going to be number one until somebody takes his spot. And for the struggles that you mentioned, Rob, that Allen has had against the Jets defense, he has really thrived against Miami's defense. And if Miami had a defensive-minded coach that could bring pressure, bring great coverage, that would cause problems for us. But realistically, I think Mike McDaniel is a good coach, and I think he's offering things to the game offensively that nobody else is really doing outside of maybe San Francisco.
Shanahan, where he came from.
Who he left. Yeah. So there's a lot of reason to look at that and say, as Mike McDaniel evolves, this offense is only going to get better. He's still a very young coach, age-wise and experience-wise. I look at Miami as a team that has future promise, present and future promise, that the Jets don't necessarily have at, quarterback and or coach. If the Jets implode this year, it's going to get blown up again. If the Jets don't do the things that they should do, to be quite honest, then they will be blown up. Whereas if Miami has a down year, Mike McDaniel's got a lot of pull there. He's not going anywhere. So I think Miami is a dangerous team September and October. If they get 6 or 7 wins in those 2 months, they're going to be dangerous. Even if they have some struggles in November, December, they'll be good enough prior to that point to where they can kind of struggle in those late months and be okay.
Yeah, DT. It was funny. I listened to GR today, and Marcel Louis-Jacques was like, he was on WGR, and he was like, "Listen, man," he's like, "the first 11 games, he's like, are not hard." He was like, "If you think I'm lying, bring up the schedule." So I'm listening. I bring up the schedule. I'm like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We can go 9-2." He's like, and then build up that lead for that eventual that cold. They just don't like. I mean, Tua, those guys. That's a real thing. They don't like the cold, and they're gonna have to deal with that again this year as well. DT.
Yeah, I mean, you ever been to Miami? It's personally probably my favorite city in the country, to be honest.
Awesome.
I wouldn't want to live down there by any means, but I sure as hell like going on vacation down there and wearing my satin button-up shirt, smoking my Cuban cigars, and looking at some other things down on Ocean Drive. But
I know that's right.
The fact of the matter is, it's a bopping city, and I wouldn't want to play in the cold either if you're down there in paradise for sure. But the fact of the matter is, there was a bunch of controversy this summer about Brian Flores. I mean, granted, Brian Flores is not a head coach anymore, and who knows if he was a good coach at all. But Brian Flores basically telling Tua he sucked, that he wasn't a franchise quarterback. And then it took forever for them to actually pay Tua. The owner was doing shady shit to get Tom Brady there, so they didn't have to pay Tua. They don't believe in this guy. I mean, Mike McDaniel, I guess, is believing in him, if you will, but he's had generation of old coach not thinking he's the guy, and that's never been the case with 1-7 and Josh Allen. He's always been the guy, right? So I think that's the big difference. They have the weapons, they have the firepower, the gas is in the Lamborghini, but who knows, is Tua really driving this car as fast as it can go? Is he hitting he likes to just hit the gas and lay off of it, or does he really know how to get into the corners and put those time trials down where they need to be? And so I just also, the other end of that is Josh Allen being 10-2 against these cats. This has got to be the Tom Brady to the Bills, Josh Allen to the Dolphins. If they want to be competitive, if they want to have a good roster, if we can just kind of hang our hat on Josh Allen as their dad and owns them, that makes up for them, being good, if you will. So the cold weather thing, they almost took us at home in the snow a couple of years ago in that game we needed in a big game, really. That's had divisional thoughts. But, then we come back down there last year and hold true and win the game we really needed to in week 18. But this year, week 2 on the short week, I know Mafia's going down there for that nice long weekend in South Beach, baby. It's always flooded with Mafia down there. But now you get the nice 4 days. You get the before it gets cold up north, I'm going to get my last hit of vitamin D down there on South Beach and Ocean Drive and really get after it. So I think it's going to be electric in that week 2 game. Josh Allen being 10-2, the history of really nobody ever believing in Tua till they had to.
Sure.
And that kind of discredits them. Any juice I could give them against the Bills.
I like that. I like both of y'all takes on Miami because I'm a 90s baby. 80, I'm born in 85. I'm a 90s baby. That's who we hated with the Dolphins. Like Dan Marino, Brian Cox. Like those are the motherfuckers that we couldn't stand. Like
that's the rivalry. That's the rivalry of the AFC.
Any Miami hate is cool with me, and I'm always down with it. So I love making fun of them in the winter and stuff like that. DT's right. They did give us the run for our money. And then, that Skylar Thompson made it a tougher playoff game and stuff like that because that was just a weird day anyway. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that the Bills win this division. As we start to shift to the other divisions, I do think that they come away with it. Loose records, fellas. I don't really know. We're not huge on predictions here at Nickel City Crew, but I say 10-7. I think that for the Bills, there could be a chance of maybe 11-6 has to be it to get it done. But I think 10-7 might be able to do it just because of the fact that we might be able to beat each other up. With the Jets being better or supposed to be better, you might get some cannibalization within the division where maybe Miami beats them one week or something like that, or different matchup the Jets win. So I think 10-7 can get it done. Maybe 11-6 is required, but I do see the Bills win in the East. You guys agree the Bills should win this division, right? We still think that they can win it, right? Okay.
I'm on them until they're not. I'm on them until they don't.
I'm heading to Seneca Niagara in about a week to place that divisional bet. I feel pretty comfortable. I just gotta wait. Sure. I gotta wait for the line to get a little bit better, and then
you want a little bit sweeter, a little bit more juice.
Sweeter.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Tonight's episode, as always, presented by 26 Shirts here on Buffalo Fanbase, the Bills Mafia Podcast Network that DT and I simulcast on. Head on over to 26shirts.com for all of your latest Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres, Buffalo City themed t-shirts. Again, portions of the proceeds go to a great cause. Families that are in need across the world, Western New York. Head on over to 26shirts.com. You can do a lot worse with your money than going ahead and helping out people in need. And they really do have some really cool concepts. As we transition, I know DT's got a little bit more time, so while I've got them, I want to run through these other divisions. The black and blue division is still, it's to me, it's one of the most intriguing divisions within the whole entire league, to be honest. And that's because of, again, the quarterback. It is a quarterback. You're right, Ryan. It's there's more than just the quarterback, but gosh darn it, these quarterbacks are important. And boy,
matters.
This division, man, it's just got everything. A 2-time MVP in Baltimore. You got Joe Burrow, who changes his hair and now he's looking like Eminem, and everybody loves him. But that wrist injury, you want to talk about injuries? They talk about Aaron Rodgers and injuries. Like, this is something to monitor. We don't talk about it that much. Yeah. But sometimes I'll think about it, and I'll hear like Stefania Bell on ESPN, and she's like, just don't think that this is just no big deal. Like, this is a real injury that he's got out there. And then obviously the masseuse, the massage lover, Deshaun Watson. They just restructured his contract today. What are they, free up $36 million? They've got the most cap space in the league at $62 million. Some people on GR were speculating maybe that's for Brandon Ayuk. I don't really necessarily believe that. I just think that they keep kicking the money down the can because they regret what they did with this guy. And he's got a shoulder injury. He can't even go through practices sometimes. So it's weird. And then obviously Pittsburgh's got a weird quarterback carousel. Mike Tomlin makes Russell Wilson the starter, even though Russell Wilson barely played in camp, but they, I guess, behind back channels, they promised him that he was going to be the starter when they traded for him. And then Justin Fields more athletic, but Justin Fields always fucking up and making mistakes. It's just, this is a crazy division. And most of the defenses in that division, obviously Cleveland lead the way. They will beat you up on Sunday. This is a fascinating division, Ryan. Fascinating. DT, I want you to go, man, because I know you got to bounce soon.
Yeah, no, it's the black and blue. You said it. Looking all the way around, kind of the scariest thing about this division is that the Bengals finished last in it last year. Like that's probably not going to happen again. And the Browns going to the playoffs with Joe Flacco shows that their roster was stout. The Ravens got better, and the Steelers, Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. So it's a scary kind of rotation on this division front in the AFC North, excuse me. But the Bengals finishing last in that division is kind of stinks, right? Because that's not probably going to happen again. So who's replacing them down there? Maybe Pittsburgh, but they're always in it late. The Browns have shown their roster strong, and the Ravens got better. The Ravens got better.
Well, some people think the Ravens got worse, Ryan, because of some of the moves that they had. They lost some guys too. But I'm wondering your thoughts on that division, because I'm with DT. Like I just think that the quarterback play in that division and some of those defenses are so stout. Where some people are even thinking that Cincinnati's going to be back on defense and they're going to be playing well again. Like there's just it's just a division that I wouldn't want to be a part of right now because of the quarterback plays and some of those defenses. I'd much rather have my cupcakes with the Patriots and see if Aaron Rodgers can get healthy and stay healthy, because this division, they'll beat you up, Ryan. Every week is
sure.
You better buckle your chin strap.
Sure. The Battle of Lake Erie with the I can't even remember who it was. Was it like Kelly Holcomb and somebody? It was a few long time ago. They called it the Battle of Lake Erie, and Kelly Holcomb had like the game of his life. That version of Kelly Holcomb is better than any version of Deshaun Watson that we've seen with the Cleveland Browns.
How weird is that, man?
It's a mighty, mighty fall, the likes of which I can't remember seeing in recent memory. But Cleveland, to DT's point, is a very dangerous team because they made the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco. Myles Garrett, generational talent, a la Bruce Smith tutelage might have helped him along the way. Sure. But I definitely think that the division runs through just the simple fact that if Joe Burrow can finally stay healthy, I think Cincinnati can take this division with relative ease.
Really?
As crazy as it sounds. Okay. I mean, you go back a couple years ago, they were AFC champs. They were in the Super Bowl. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think that they're at a point where they're just really crossing their fingers that Joe Burrow is the next John Elway or Brett Favre, but not the next Andrew Luck. You know what I mean? And it's looking like he's more Andrew Luck or Joe Cool, like you said, Joe Montana. That'd be the best case scenario, right? So it's very tough to kind of pinpoint where the Ravens fit in this, because for as great as Lamar Jackson can be, I think that there's an MVP one too many trophy in his closet. I felt like he shouldn't have won the MVP last year. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
I just felt like
he was most overrated.
Most overrated, right? Or up there, right? I don't see it. I don't see the reason that he won the MVP. I haven't met a single person that thought he should have won the MVP. So it's really hard for me to swallow that one when I felt like Josh arguably should have got it in his own right, or McCaffrey. But, realistically, I think the division is Cincinnati and the Ravens. Pittsburgh is going through a rough stretch right now. They don't even know who they are. And that's a first, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really thinking that the division will run through either Baltimore or Cincinnati, and I think if Joe Burrow can get back to being Joe Burrow of a couple years ago, it's gonna be very tough for teams to stop that Burrow at his healthiest. Higgins,
they're gonna have to pay Chase. They're gonna have to. They gotta
pay. They gotta pay him. Yeah, they gotta pay him.
Yeah,
and I will say, a lot of people are talking about, Joe Mixon's gone. But they got this kid Chase Brown that I'm really high on. They also signed Zach Moss. I like that. A little bit of brute in the run game, which is pretty rare these days, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking that Cincinnati would be my favorite if Joe stays healthy, since he's going to take it.
DT, what do you? Then it could be a different story in Baltimore. Okay, what do you think, DT, with that division? Because Cleveland's got the best defense. Okay.
Yeah, I think Baltimore.
All right. Well, we'll save the AFC South just in case DT has to duck out of here. We don't need to talk about that garbage ass division right off the bat. So we'll save the good stuff right now while DT's still here before he skates out of here. The AFC West, fellas. I mean, is there anybody that has the kahunas just to stand up to the bully one time, just one day, walk into school and say, you know what, Pat, you can't have my lunch money. Will anybody do it? Now, I know everybody went crazy, last Christmas when, the Raiders beat them on Christmas Day, and they're, oh my gosh, and look at Pat, and then all these son of bitches they just go out and go ahead and win another, Super Bowl. It's like, oh my, it's nauseating. Now, I'm a Michigan fan. Ryan, and I love, Harbaugh, because I just think that he is he's the perfect coach for a team if you need to start believing differently about yourself, if you need to start thinking that, you know what, I'm not a loser, I'm a winner. That's the coach to have, because everywhere he goes, he changes programs. Stanford, they weren't winners. They're an academic school. He takes them, turns them around. The fact, he even did it at San Diego. Then he goes to Michigan, his alma mater. There's no more pressure cooker in college football than the fact when a hometown hero comes back to his hometown. And comes back to the alma mater, and he just whipped him into shape. I don't know about all the cheating and shit like that. I mean, I guess everybody in college football was doing it, but I mean, the college stallions and stuff like that. I think that he is the ultimate motivator. You saw it in San Francisco. It's not about college or pro. You see those coaches sometimes, DT, that they can't transition. They might be a dictator, and Saban didn't work the same way in the NFL that he does at Alabama and LSU. It's just different. Harbaugh connects, man. Can he be the secret sauce that they need? I know their roster's not ready yet, DT. Can somebody stand up to these guys? Please, man, give them some losses. I mean, what the hell?
It's tough. And this, 2 years ago.
What do they have, like 7 in a row? Isn't it 7 or 8?
When Russell Wilson came into Denver, Derek Carr got Devontae Adams. The Chargers had Herbert and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler and Khalil Mack, and it was like, okay, this division's great. They're going to cannibalize each other. It's going to be awesome. They're going to beat each other up. And what happened? They all blew, and the Chiefs ran away with it. And and this year you kind of break it down, like you said. Yes, I think Harbaugh in the Chargers maybe in a couple of years are that team,
right?
But not right now. They gutted a team that was kind of not that great anyway. Completely gutted it out.
Got all those big contracts.
Herbert's about it, and then you go on the other side. The Raiders are kind of, who knows? I don't know if they. I'm watching the Receiver. You guys watch Receiver on Netflix this summer?
I loved it.
I loved
it.
And that was a horrible look for the Raiders. Devontae was like, this place blows, man. Like, I gotta get out of here. So, and I don't think they did.
You got the Randy Moss treatment. That's what he's.
Yeah, what did they do? They bring in Gardner Minshew to fix that. So like I don't think and then there is some promise, I think, in Denver, but brand new rookie. I have watched. Obviously 330 is kind of a split household. We got Bronco Gang in here too, and so I've watched these preseason games. Bo Nix looks good, but Bo Nix
he's like Breeze. He's not throwing anywhere.
When he goes to take the lunch money, he gets his ass in a swirly real quick. So 2 years ago we were pumped. They're going to cannibalize themselves, and then now the division's gotten. It seems there's future in it, but it's gotten worse. And the Chiefs are still as strong as they ever have been, if not better. So I can't confidently say anybody even has a chance. Yeah.
Ryan, DT, thanks. Whenever you got a duck, we appreciate you tonight. And who do you got in the South? Just in case, because you probably won't be here for the South. Who do you got in the South? Because I take that back. Anybody who's listening about AFC South, they have gotten better, and there's some quarterbacks in there that are interested to discuss. They're the
Young Bucks. I'm
do you believe all the Houston hype? I guess is really the question. Houston is just the talk of the offseason.
I think Houston's the most talented roster. I think the Colts are going to kind of show some stuff if Anthony Richardson stays healthy. Obviously, give me to the Jaguars because they've been there before. They've been to the playoffs. They've won games down the stretch. They haven't been dominant by any means, but they have a decent roster. Trevor Lawrence just got paid. Now he's got to go prove it. They have the experience to get it done. I'm anti-Texans this year for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the Diggs drama and C.J. Stroud running his mouth like he's Tom Brady all off season is really pissing me off. So I'm off on the Texans more out of spite. I think the Jaguars have the longevity and the experience. When push comes to shove, I think maybe they slide it out.
Okay, I appreciate it. Ryan, I mean. It's funny. We'll go back to the AFC West real quick because I wanted to get your thoughts on the bully on the block.
Sure.
He's taking everybody's lunch money every year, and nobody wants to stand up to him. Like nobody. And I know Pierce talks a big game, and that's why I called them posters. Like he talks a big game, and I like Antonio Pierce. I love players, coaches in general. But I see some of the guys playing around with Kermit, in the offseason and putting $15 on. I'm like, man, y'all
be careful.
Y'all haven't really done shit yet. Like you guys talking shit.
What are you doing?
Yeah, like
be careful what you say.
Yeah, man.
Be careful.
What do you think about that division? Because it's an interesting one, and I do have DT's right. Maybe not this year, but I do have high hopes for the Chargers in the future. Maybe not this year.
I agree with kind of both of your sentiments. Rob, you mentioned Jim Harbaugh. I think that
I love him.
He was over the moon for this opportunity. And maybe a little bit of that had to do with some of the stuff on the back end of Michigan. I'm just saying, kind of pull the Pete Carroll, USC. Seattle wants me. I'm gone. See you, bye. Which is okay. I'm cool with it. Whatever.
NIL, a lot of college football's changing, so I'm sure he's too old for all that shit.
Yeah, all that is. I don't give a rat's about that. If he got some guys to come on a transfer, so be it. Whatever. It was fun watching Michigan take names and kick some ass. Blake Corum, L.A. Ram, J.J. McCarthy, rest up, heal well. I really like that team a lot. So Jim Harbaugh is one of those coaches that I think anywhere he goes, he's got like the Midas touch. He turns it to gold, right? Yeah. So I do think the Chargers will be very competitive this year. It's going to be different –
Really?
Yes. It's going to be a different style of team.
Oh, they're going to run the ball, right? I mean, that's Harbaugh's signature.
and that's the team that gives the Chiefs problems. That's the team that can I think time of possession is a stat that does not get talked about nearly enough. If a team can run the ball and be imposing on another team, then it keeps their best players on offense off the field. Mahomes will be chewing on his mouthpiece. Kelsey will be listening to some Taylor Swift and his AirPod, and it'll be a nice time to be a Chargers fan. Whether it happens quite in victory, I don't think so. I'm not going to say that the Chargers are going to be winning the division. I think that that's the team that I look at though and say they got the best shot. Now the Raiders also made, I think, one of the best free agent pickups that any team had made all offseason with the signing of Christian Wilkins. I was really happy that they were able to pluck him away.
I like him a lot.
From the Miami Dolphins. I think that's huge. And with Max Crosby, they'll do some solid work there. But I just don't know about the quarterback. And realistically, quarterback-wise for the Chargers, Justin Herbert, it was reported that he's got that plantar fasciitis, which is the worst injury I have ever had. I didn't have many.
Really?
But that was the worst injury that I ever had. I had concussions. I had shoulder issues during wrestling season when I was a junior and senior. Got the plantar fasciitis in 10th, 11th, 12th. Lingered in college. It is horrible. I get it sometimes even when I go golfing.
It debilitated Tim Duncan. Like it's a big deal.
It's the only thing that made me roll on the ground in pain.
Really?
It's tough. Yeah, it's really bad. So when that came out, it made me think, this is a problem. It feels like you got a lit match to your foot.
Oh, really? Is that what it's like?
Yeah. So it's pretty painful. So.
I didn't know if you could put some inserts in or something like that in the cleats, and that's going to do the trick.
They're going to have to.
He only missed a couple weeks.
Okay. Yeah, they'll tape it up and they'll probably shoot him up. Yeah, I mean that's what I did, so, which was also awful. So I talked to Scott Reed about it. I talked to Scott Reed when that news broke. It was like, what type of injections is he gonna get? I wanted some of that stuff, some of the NFL juice, but I didn't get that. So
Lord have mercy.
So he might be all right.
Nickel City Crew does not condone painkillers to all the high school kids out there. I'm teasing. Teasing. Oh my goodness. So you're in the camp that this could be something to monitor. Like I'm monitoring Joe Burrow and his wrist.
Yeah.
This is something or Aaron Rodgers.
Something to monitor. Monitor. I think honestly, I think just as much as Joe Burrow. I really do monitor that. I think that could be something that could creep back up. It's not something that just goes away. It takes time. It takes a lot of time for that to completely go away. It takes time. So
he said a lit match to his feet, Nickel City Crew. Did you hear that? Like that? That's crazy. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, like in Denver, it seems like, it just seems like Peyton's just trying to get another Breeze. Like this guy, Bo Nix, I mean, he's got tons of experience, doesn't have the strongest arm, but you know what I mean? He's efficient, he's accurate, different things like that. He is smart.
Very
Yep.
smart.
But it seems like he's trying to recreate that New Orleans thing. Don't you agree?
Right. And that's, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't change it, you know. And
Right.
he inherited Russell Wilson, who it was painfully obvious he didn't want him. So as
Sure.
soon as he could get him out, you know, no matter what the cost, it was like, okay, I want to put my own fingerprints on this team. I'm a Super Bowl winning coach. I get an offensive pedigree that dates back, you know, decades. He's a great coach, you know.
And this
he's
dude's making me look horrible.
This dude's making me look bad. So time to move on and put my own stamp. And there's a new. I mean, I've followed Denver, you know, just over the offseason because they underwent so many changes. They're in the AFC, and you know, they're a team that my grandfather on my dad's side was a huge fan of. So I always kind of keep my eyes on him. Okay. And Peyton Manning, you know, back end of his career was there. It was awesome to watch. But I really believe in this Bo Nix kid. I think he's really special.
Oh, really?
I do. I think that along with, you know, quarterback-wise, I think Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, they got it. JJ, once he comes back, he's got it. But Bo Nix has something about him that leadership-wise, experience-wise, he's been in every situation, at least collegiately, that the game can throw at you. Absolutely. So I didn't see him as a necessary reach as others did. I saw him as a guy that Sean Payton prioritized in getting. It seemed like that was his guy, maybe even dating back a year ago. He was thinking, I get Russ out of here. We go get the guy that I wanted out of college that's not in this draft, but in next year's. Right. And that's exactly what he did.
Interesting. So, that's an interesting take. I just see, you know, I hear about his arm is not the most talented, different things like that. You know, but he is smart, and he has played a ton of college football. He's an older guy. I know he Auburn and then to Oregon. So he's seen his battles for sure from the SEC out there in the Pac-12 at the time. So it'll be interesting to see because it was definitely clear, like you said, that Peyton did not want Russ around anymore, tarnishing his reputation for sure. Because Sean Payton's a great offensive coach, and I don't, you know, he's a little bit full of himself, but you know, he's got the Super Bowl ring to back it, and most people do. All across the league, they vouch for the fact that he knows his shit. So we'll see. Now, as we transition and begin to close tonight, AFC South. I know I joked about it before, but I mean it is a division with quarterbacks that are very intriguing. And I know DT gave his thoughts on it before he bounced. I wanted to get yours as well, Ryan, because when I look at that division, you know, the thing about it for me is that sometimes the rise. Sometimes the rise is better when you get a chance to sneak up on people. We saw that even with the Bills. You know, nobody really expected us, you know, when we got Stephon Diggs to rise the way that we did, and we just boom, we're up there, and we're, you know, with the AFC and the NFL elite. Houston last year, you know, they had a great season, and obviously it was way over expectations that anybody really had for them, and nobody even saw CJ Stroud coming in that respect. Obviously the Panthers, where I am down here in Charlotte, didn't either, or they should have picked him. So that's always funny at the barbershop. But to talk, because the owner of the barbershop's a Carolina Panthers fan, so I always give him shit and call Bryce Young I call him Step Stool, and he hates that. He can't stand that shit. And so you know what I mean? So it's funny, but you know, when you have that kind of rise, and then everybody starts to focus on you, what the Bills did well when we were under the spotlight was we played well. I mean, remember the one year that we were the Super Bowl, favorites. We go out to play the Super Bowl champs, the defending champs, play the Rams, and we smack them around. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And how is Houston going to handle the attention is really one of the things that I look at, because you got a young quarterback. You know, Daniil Hunter just came over, and I know that he's a veteran apprentice, but you got a young guy in Will Anderson. You just got a bunch of young guys that don't know much about much. And I understand that sometimes the naivety can be to your advantage, but then other times it can work to your detriment because of the fact that they're just not ready. And there's going to be a lot more primetime games and a lot more eyeballs on the Houston Texans. So that's the only trepidation I have. I look at Tennessee as, you know, they're going to try to find out who their quarterback is. That's how I feel about them. In the Indianapolis, the Colts, they just want to get off the ground. You know, they had a quarterback that they felt positive about, and then the injury derails that last year. Sure. I'm really interested in what you think about it, because DT likes Jacksonville, and that's interesting. But Houston's got the defense. They've got a great coach. I love DeMeco Ryans. I don't know how they're going to handle the pressure. And it's not something just to sneeze at, in my opinion.
No, and there's two ways in the NFL that teams react to pressure. Sure. Like young teams react to pressure. They either succumb to it early and their season is a pressure dumpster fire, or attitude or moxie or swagger or whatever drip, whatever word kids use these days that I don't know, that I shouldn't be saying, because I don't really know what they are.
I love
Houston's got that. They
Mhm.
have that. They have this refreshing, just kind of
They're fun to watch.
gung-ho style that made CJ Stroud, I think, one of the best rookie quarterbacks I have ever seen in my lifetime. There's nobody that's had as good a rookie year in my lifetime. Peyton Manning certainly didn't have that good of a rookie year. He threw for like 38 interceptions or whatever it was, like 29. But CJ Stroud is the real deal. But with that, you got a whole year of teams, especially these teams in the AFC South, watching the games that CJ Stroud will put together. They're game planning for that. They're trying to find chinks in the armor. And I gotta say that I look at it from a balance standpoint. Sometimes firepower isn't really going to get it done. It's not a burnout, type league where we talked about Miami, and I look at Houston and Miami a lot similarly.
Okay.
They'll win these shootouts. They'll go toe to toe with you, Miami, that is. Houston will win these shootouts. They'll go toe to toe with you, but that nitty gritty experience in the playoffs that like Buffalo has, despite coming up short, they do have that playoff experience. Cincinnati, they've been to a Super Bowl, someplace that Buffalo hasn't been with this group. And then KC, I think that the pecking order, I'd put Houston in a higher light than Baltimore.
Okay.
Just in terms of, the power of the hierarchy or power ranking of the AFC.
Sure.
But if Houston gets hot early, that could be their fault. Like that could be what makes or breaks them. So if this season starts off where Houston's the toast of the town and they're like 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, it could be a situation where one loss to a KC, to a Buffalo, to a Cincinnati, we could see two completely different seasons. And that could be my prediction. Now, whether that leads to Houston winning the division, I think Houston will. But it could be a situation where we could be thinking Houston's going to get the 1 seed, and then the season ends, and we're like, Houston's the 5 seed, the 4 seed. What the hell happened to that? Kind of like what happened to Philadelphia last year. They're so young and so energized that they might come out of the gates, on fire. They might be the best team in the NFL for a short while. But if they don't keep it together, if they don't take this week to week,
pace
hear
themselves.
Sean McDermott say that all the time, and we roll our eyes, but it's so true. It's a week to week league, and if we look ahead, if they're the Houston Texans and they look ahead too far, they're going to regret it. So
that's interesting.
AFC
I like
South
that.
Champs, but
I like that.
Take that with a grain of salt. I don't know.
That's like the Olympics with a sprinter. He's not a sprinter, a long distance runner. He's coming out a little bit too hot, in the beginning, trying to build a big lead. And then by the end of it, he can't sustain it. That's interesting. I like that take, Ryan. Look at that. You never get takes like that other than Ryan Thomas, our guest tonight from Thomas Takes Sports. I really appreciate tonight because, looking at the division, like you said, it's interesting, and I gave my thoughts on it. I do think that Houston's got the chops to do it. I will watch Jacksonville because I do respect Doug Peterson. I think that he's a good coach. I thought he got a raw deal. Yeah, I thought he got a raw deal in Philly, to be honest, me personally. And to be interesting, like I said, Indy is just trying to figure out, can this guy do it, and can we get him off the ground and keep him healthy? And he reminds me of Josh Allen a little bit, but I 4 games is not enough sample size for Anthony Richardson, so I don't want to make those lofty comparisons. And then, like I said, Tennessee, with Will Levis, they're trying to figure out that's their guy. Now they tried to buy a defense. They've got pieces now, and they trade for L'Jarius Sneed and different things like that. We're going to see what Callahan can do on the offense with his dad running the O-line, and maybe that can trick some wins and stuff like that. So we'll see, man. I really enjoyed you tonight, Ryan, man. I loved your takes tonight. You've been spot on. I always enjoy talking to you, man, for sure. College football's back, Nickel City Crew. So we've got, we're like down to what, like 13 or not even 13, like 11 days or something like that. There's not much time. September 8th is right around the corner. DT and I will be back next week as well. We're just going to kick up our feet, relax, and we're going to talk about really what Ryan talked about at the beginning of the show. Where's our fandom come from? What makes this time of year so special? Because we've done everything. We went over defense. It's Bobby's team now. It's Bobby's world. We went over offense, the offensive buffet. We went over the schedule. We've done it all here at Nickel City Crew, and we really appreciate you guys joining us throughout the offseason. The off season is over. It's over. It's time to start digging into the real meat. And I can't wait. Ryan, man, sign us off tonight. I really appreciate you joining us, man. Give us your final thoughts because this is going to be an interesting season, to say the least. This is going to be an interesting year. And it's funny because I promised the guys at the K-Gun Report when they had me on the show earlier in the offseason that I would enjoy this season and that I wouldn't just be looking to the playoffs. Now, that was before Diggs got traded. So I had to take a pledge that I was going to do it. Like, okay, I'm going to really focus on enjoying the season and not just jumping ahead to January. And then Diggs got traded, and that just, you already see me on Twitter. That threw my whole shit off. So I'm going to have no problem watching this team and enjoying the ride because, quite frankly, my expectations are just a little bit more tempered. So because of that, I should be able to just watch the games, enjoy them, and hopefully give them a better product for Nickel City Crew. Because I can be honest, these last couple of years, I'm just, get me to January. Who are we playing? What seed do we have? Can we get Kansas City on the road? Like, I've just been laser focused on the playoffs, and I know I can't do that. What are your final thoughts as we sign off tonight?
Well, I tell you what, I have a few, and I'll start off with this. I know that your thought process is rather that you're going to go into these games, try not to get your emotions too far into it, try not to let this team kind of tug at your heartstrings. I hate to tell you, Rob, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I do it too.
That's what Justice told me last week.
Every single year, I tell myself, I'm not going to get too torn up. I'm going to just watch the game. This team is my blood. Like, this team is just every fiber of my being.
That's right.
I want to see this team win a Super Bowl more than anything, in my life, to be quite honest with you. So as far as sports go, I mean, I've been a fan of three teams my whole life. I've been a Buffalo Bills fan, Buffalo Sabres fan. My grandfather was a diehard Boston Red Sox fan. Grew up watching Ted Williams, loves the Red Sox, and I got to taste more World Series in my lifetime than he did rooting for that team. Even in a short 14-year span from 04 to 18.
Sure.
Every time the Red Sox won the series, I'd say to myself, God, if only the Buffalo Bills could do this, what would this feel like? It would feel 10 times, 20 times better than even that. So, as long as this journey is not over, we're in the middle point of it.
We're starting phase two. Me and DT say we're starting phase two of Josh Allen's career.
Josh Allen, phase 2, 7 years. This is the 7th year. We're in like the sequel portion of his career. There's 2 parts, and I'm ready to see what I think is going to be the biggest question for the Buffalo Bills this year that dictates what happens with their season,
which is
1, the rise of Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
If Dalton Kincaid is the next Travis, if he is the next Travis Kelce, and he puts forth a season like that, then the Bills should have a very good year. As well, if Keon Coleman can be what Josh Allen believes Keon Coleman can be. This team, it's hard. It is.
It's a rookie.
But this team could be better, potentially, long-term, than what they were these last few years. That's a hot take. You really think about it. If you really think about it, if this could be and it's year 1 of Coleman, year 2 of Kincaid. I'd say it's almost year 1 of Kincaid in his own right of actually being the tight end 1. I think a lot of people looked at him as like a gadget, kind of mismatched, didn't know what we were going to get. 6 weeks into the season, he didn't have a touchdown. So I tell you what, this year, 6 weeks into the season, he might have 6. Might have 5, might have 4. It's a different year. It's a very different makeup.
No, he's got to be featured for sure. Yeah, he's got to be featured.
So I think their success hinges offensively, especially on Coleman and Kincaid. If they can be, big difference makers for Josh Allen, then this team is going to be very good because I like the players around those two guys. I am a big Curtis Samuel guy. I've watched him since college. I think that he is playing with the best quarterback by far that he's ever played with.
We said that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's another guy that I got the chance to ask a question to on One Bills Live that was on One Bills Live a couple weeks ago. They do the Timbit tweet sheet. Chris Brown, they picked my question, which was awesome. Ray Davis. This is a name that
like him.
I love him. I think this is a name that is going to be heard loudly.
Really?
And people, and people will really, and people will really come to think, man, I've been talking about him almost every single week prior to the draft.
Okay.
And after the draft, I was elated when I saw that the Buffalo Bills picked him. I think he's just what they need to complement James Cook. I think he's a perfect 1-2 punch. So if Bills Mafia is feeling like, I don't know, I think that we're going to be pleasantly surprised by the three names that I mentioned. I think Keon, Kincaid, Ray Davis, if those three guys can do what I think they can, this team's going to be very fun. It's going to look a lot different, but it's going to be very fun.
Look at that. Listen to that, Nickel City crew. Ryan is just, he's trying to bring up the spirits because everybody knows that DT's always glass half full. I'm trying to be a realist, so I don't want to set myself up. I'm like, I don't want to bring my expectations too high and be too disappointed now. But that was different when we had the team that we had these last couple of years. I was all Super Bowl all in. I just thought that some of the changes were just too much to overcome. So I lowered my expectations, but that's interesting. I don't like to put too much on Keon's plate because he's a rookie. So I don't want to get down that road too much. But Samuel, Shakir is going to have to play a big role for sure. It just seems like everybody's got to step up. This everybody eats. If thing is going to work, then everybody's got to grab a fork and grab a plate and go ahead on and grab your portion.
Dalton Kincaid's going to have to grab a big wooden spoon, and Ray Davis is going to just take the whole table, I think, at some point. So it's going to be fun. I am really excited. I know that this team is going to look a lot different. What I mean by that is how they're actually going to attack the opposing defense and move down the field. So I'm just really pumped. I feel blessed for another season, blessed to have Josh Allen. There were a lot of years where I was walking to school reluctantly wearing a JP or reluctantly wearing I won't say reluctantly wearing a Trent. I had a lot of love for Trent when he did the 4-0, back in 08. But
That's funny. We've definitely seen worse quarterbacks.
There's nobody like Josh Allen.
Days. There's nobody like him for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm really excited for another year of that. I think all the kids in Western New York, they're ready to pretend they're Josh Allen in the front yard or backyard, and that's cool. I really love that, and it's a great time to be a Bills fan.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you tonight. As always, spread love out there, not hate. These were my Bills thoughts said out loud. Hit them with a Go Bills, right? That's how we sign off. Hit them with a Go Bills. I love it. Love your stuff tonight.
Go Bills.
Go Bills. I love it.
Just keep it simple.